The desert night held its breath when the riders came, shadows gliding between the boulders, their boots muffled, their intentions sharp as arrowheads. Coyotes sensed the wrongness and slunk away. Wind crept low across the dirt, as if it, too, feared stirring the silence. In the center of that quiet rested a small Apache camp, glowing faintly beneath the dying embers of a fire. Among the camp's scattered huts was Tala Fierside, proud, a woman whose lineage traced back to warriors, whose stories were carved into canyon walls. She wasn't just another Apache woman. She was the daughter of White Hawk, the tribe's keeper of old ways, and the chosen guardian of something deeper. But the raiders didn't know that. They didn't know they were about to light a fire impossible to put out. Led by a man named Colton Briggs, a mercenary with a scar running from chin to collarbone, they moved like wolves with stolen courage. In a heartbeat, they crashed through the camp, overwhelming the few guards, and seized Tala as she fought tooth and bone. She clawed at the dirt, spat curses, drew blood, and made the night tremble with her cries. But they dragged her away anyway, binding her to a stolen horse and vanishing into the canyon darkness. The camp erupted in alarm, fires reigniting, warriors chasing in desperation. But their trails were confusing, their tactics precise. Briggs had planned this well. Too well, but not well enough. Because as dawn crept across the horizon fiery red, slicing the desert clean, another figure was already awake, already watching, already moving. A lone silhouette leaned against an old wooden fence outside the abandoned outpost of Broken Mesa, hat low, revolver holstered in a way that promised violence, not threats. His coat fluttered in the morning breeze, long and tattered, bearing scars from bullets and battles forgotten by most. Yet the land remembered him. The legends whispered his name like a warning carved into canyon stone. Jaxon Creed, the ghost gunslinger, a man thought dead years ago, burned out of existence by the very men who now rode with Briggs, the same men who had razed his home, slaughtered his family, and left him broken beneath the desert sun. But he didn't die. He didn't fade. He became something else, something the West told stories about in hushed tones, something parents invoked to scare their sons away from outlaw life. And this morning, that legend had returned, not for revenge, not for glory, but because Tala was a debt he owed. Years ago, when blood loss and smoke stole his strength, when death reached out its cold hand, Tala and her tribe found him, sheltered him, healed him, and preserved the man who would one day bring justice to others. Briggs and his gang didn't just kidnap an Apache woman, they touched Creed's past, Creed's honor, Creed's blood, and the moment they did, the earth itself shuddered in anticipation. Jaxon pushed away from the fence, dust rising beneath his boots as he walked toward the sunrise. His hand grazed the colt at his hip, the metal humming with silent rage. The desert before him stretched wide, but Creed didn't slow. He knew where Briggs would run. He knew the canyons, the choke points, the outlaw trails that snaked through broken stone. And as he saddled his black mare, the sun finally broke free of the horizon, casting a long shadow behind him, longer than any man, deeper than any myth. Nearby, a vulture circled. Ahead, a storm gathered. With a single kick of his heels, he whispered to the wind, "They stole the wrong woman." Then he rode. The trail Colton Briggs carved into the desert would have fooled any ordinary tracker. But Jaxon Creed was not ordinary. He followed faint impressions, the slight drag mark from Tala's bindings, the broken cactus spine, a scattering of displaced sand reading them like scripture etched into the earth. His horse moved in silence, as if it, too, understood the gravity of what was coming. The rising sun heated the horizon, bending light into shimmering ghosts. But Creed's focus never wavered. Hours passed, buzzards croaked overhead, distant gunshots echoed from the south, signaling that Briggs' men were restless, disorganized, panicking as word spread. Creed is alive. Outlaws cursed, spat, argued, terrified of a man who once took down an entire gang, armed with nothing but one bullet and a burning hatred for injustice. As Creed descended into a winding canyon, the air thickened with the scent of gun oil and rabbit brush. He saw hoofprints, fresh ones, and adjusted his trajectory. Soon he reached a ridge overlooking a hidden encampment, a narrow canyon, mouth cluttered with crates, wagons, and armed men pacing with rifles. At the center, tied to a post with ropes biting into her wrists, stood Tala. Her chin was high, her eyes sharp, unbroken, even as Briggs approached her, trying to interrogate her about tribal lands and rumored gold veins. She answered with silence that cut deeper than any blade. Briggs struck her across the face, and that was the last mistake he made as a breathing man. Beneath the ridge, Creed breathed out slowly, drawing his revolver with reverent calm. The world grew very still. His thumb cocked the hammer, and the first shot, when it cracked through the canyon, sounded like thunder ripping heaven in half. The bullet struck Briggs in the shoulder, spinning him to the ground, his gun clattering uselessly. Chaos detonated. Outlaws scrambled, shouting curses, firing blindly at the ridge. Creed didn't hide. He didn't duck. He walked straight down the ridge path, bullets snapping past him, striking stone, kicking up dirt, missing him by inches as if fate itself refused to touch him. His movements were smooth, deliberate, lethal. One shot, one kill, another shot, another outlaw falling. The canyon turning into a graveyard scored by echoes of regret. Men who mocked his name now screamed it as they died. Tala watched with awe and fury combined, her breath catching each time. Creed stepped forward through the storm of bullets as if he were born from it. One outlaw rushed him with a knife. Creed sidestepped, seized the man by the collar, and slammed him into a rock so hard that silence swallowed the canyon afterward. Another tried to flee. Creed dropped him with a clean shot between the shoulder blades. Then the world quieted. Gun smoke curled through the air like mourning spirits. Briggs crawled toward his rifle, blood dripping a trail behind him. Creed kicked the weapon aside and knelt, his eyes colder than desert stone. "You stole the wrong woman," he said. Briggs tried to speak, but Creed fired once, ending the sentence forever. When the dust settled, the canyon belonged to the dead and the living who deserved it. Creed cut Tala free, and she steadied herself, refusing to show weakness though her wrists were raw. "You came," she whispered. Creed nodded. "You saved me once. No debt goes unpaid." But Tala looked at him differently now, not as a wounded man she once helped, but as a force of nature resurrected. Together, they rode back toward the rising heat of the desert, knowing that word of what happened here would spread like wildfire. And as the sun climbed higher, painting the sky gold, a new legend took root across the West. If you steal from the innocent, if you break sacred bonds, if you take the wrong Apache woman, the ghost gunslinger will come for you, and he will not stop, not ever.